We're here at Pac-12 Media Day with inside UCLA blogger Jon Gold, inside USC blogger Scott Wolf.
First time on camera together.
I am Sam Strong, discussion moderator.
See this, folks? UCLA and USC fans. See this?
Shaking hands together in unity.
We can do this.
Inaugural Pac-12 Media Day. I'm your discussion moderator and LA Daily News intern, Sam Strong. We're going to start off. What was your one big takeaway? We'll start with you, Scott. I mean, if you had to take away something from today, for USC, what is it?
Usually I don't take away much from Pac-10, and today, Pac-12 Media Day. Today I took away that this was a totally inadequate place to have Media Day. More schools than ever, more media, and they chose the smallest building they've ever had it in since I've been covering it. So, total black eye for Larry Scott, who, the media usually sucks up to him, so I'm going to ding him at the outset of this.
Okay.
If I had to take something away for USC, Lane Kiffin said he was shocked they were picked to win the South Division. He thought Arizona State has more guys coming back and should be favored. So, that's one thing. And then the other thing would be, he talked about how Mark Tyler may not still be out of the woods in terms of coming back after his opening game suspension. He's going to wait and see how Tyler acts the next month or so before he makes any decisions. So that was probably the big thing, other than the lousy facilities here today.
Okay, John, we'll turn to you. We know a piece of breaking news got dropped by Rick Neuheisel in the press conference. Question you asked,
Probably
actually.
the least opportune time. Yeah, we found out the news that freshman wonderkind quarterback Brett Hundley has a torn meniscus. Probably going to be out half. Rick Neuheisel says half of fall camp. I expect it to be a little bit longer than that. They always try to be a little bit too optimistic, and the word optimism is something that always abounds with Rick Neuheisel, and I think that's a hard sell this year, and I think he's kind of learning that. I think he's learning that, the raw passion bucket, all that kind of stuff. The monopoly is over. All those catchphrases, all those lines that have been bandied about the last few years, they're falling on deaf ears right about now. 2 4-8 seasons in 3 years. Those sandwiched a 7-6 season with a bowl win over Temple in the Eagle Bank Bowl. So, we're not talking a major marquee bowl. And I think Rick Neuheisel is kind of learning that, all that optimism, all that excitement, you need to deliver. You need to have results if that's going to happen. And if you're going to talk like that, you have to deliver. And I think he's kind of realizing that. He talks about not feeling like he's on the hot seat, but we at the UCLA media table, we made sure he was in the shade to be even less in a hot seat, that kind of deal. Because he really is, he's really going into a make-or-break season, I believe. And I think, while outwardly he might not be conveying that, I definitely think he has to feel that.
You think he owned up to it today by saying, it's all on me and I know I have to get it done this year, or was he still kind of backing off that a little bit?
I think he was still Rick Neuheisel, and I think that is who he is, and I think that kind of personality and that kind of optimistic outlook, why are you asking questions about what ifs? That kind of stuff. We have to ask those questions right now. Those are valid questions. And if the team does stumble out of the gate, what does happen, all that kind of stuff. But I do think he realizes that, this team is not, in an enviable position after 3 years. They are fighting, clawing and fighting their way up from a 5th place prediction in the Pac-12 South. And so, he has his work cut out, and I think he's going to have to probably tone down the rhetoric, tone down the rah-rah for fans to give fans that realistic outlook on what's going to be a big season.
Sure. You guys are obviously old hats at this, been to a few of them, but this was the big story today was Utah and Colorado's first Pac-12 Media Day venture. How do you think they showed themselves today, Scott? I'll start with you.
I think it was fine. I mean, Big 12 Media Day is probably actually a bigger event than Pac-12 or Pac-10, so Colorado probably came into this a little lackluster in terms of the atmosphere. Utah might have been happy. I mean, any press coverage they get. I know you're from Utah, so hopefully that'll upset you.
Sam Strong behind the camera right now is seething.
But, I think they were fine with it. I didn't talk to Kyle Whittingham at the individual session I wanted to, but they left before Lane Kiffin was done, so I didn't get a chance. But, they're doing so much fundraising in record numbers and everything now, so I'm sure they're elated. And until they start losing games this season, they'll be pretty happy about being in this new conference.
Sure. John, you notice anything from those two schools?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting, the way Scott put it about Colorado being from the Big 12, Utah coming from the Mountain West, and I find it pretty interesting that the Big 12 is one of the premier conferences. The Big Six, they're one of the most discussed conferences, and the Mountain West is on the outside looking in kind of thing. And yet coming into the Pac-12, you have Colorado from the Big 12 predicted to be sixth, and in the Pac-12 South, and you have Utah predicted at third, I believe. So they are getting, I feel, at least from the media, a healthy dose of respect, the individual football programs, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if Utah can build on just the sheer amount of success and wins that they've had going back to Alex Smith and the Urban Meyer era. And I'm really interested. Sorry, I got my bop going. I am really interested to see how both schools approach their respective outlooks this season. Utah's expected to be a little bit better than Colorado. I wonder if Colorado's gonna act like the Big 12 school.
Sure.
Speaking of Colorado, I have some news.
Okay.
Joe Klatt was here, the former quarterback, and he's going to be the analyst for the Pac-12 games, which means I'm probably not the only one. I shouldn't say I'm happy to say this, because that's kind of cruel, but Petros Papadakis will now be on the sideline and not in the booth.
No!
So
Okay.
they've shaken up.
No!
I'm not sure this is an upgrade or not, because I haven't heard Joel Klatt before, but I think this goes back to Larry Scott. Everything has to be different now. Change is for the sake of change.
Change for the sake.
That doesn't mean it's necessarily better, but he has to change things. One thing too I want to mention, Lane Kiffin at the outset mentioned USC had 9 players picked last year in the draft, which was more than any other school. And I immediately told him after the press conference, why did he go 8-5 if he had that many players? So he wasn't thrilled with that question. And then the other thing I'll note today is he was wearing an orange power band, which reminded me of Tennessee. So I asked him if there was
Old Moons.
a hint there in terms of he's not going to stick around USC or what. He said Matt Barkley gave it to him, but I'm sure that's not the case.
One thing I want to mention to you, Scott, is in the press conference, Kiffin said, we know we didn't get our appeal, and that's all in the rear view, and we can kind of not stop worrying about that. Do you think they can effectively do that this season? Will that differ from last season?
Well, he said that since they first went on probation, and
Sure.
I think the difference this year is they've been through it a year, and they'll know what it's like to go through it again this year. So, they're not going to have the bowl game, and they can't go to the Pac-12 title game, so they're going to have to deal with that. But they went through similar circumstances last year, so I don't think it's going to have as big an effect as it did last year. But the reality is their season is going to end, at the end of the year when they play, mighty Rick Neuheisel, and he'll probably be fighting for his job. And you asked if he owned up to anything. I was going to ask you, he fired his offensive and defensive coordinators, so I guess he isn't owning up to much other than blaming other people, from my view.
Certainly. Last thing, what's the food? What was the food like today?
Subpar.
Terrible.
The fat guy. Subpar.
Subpar?
Terrible.
I thought it was okay. I don't
Awful
know.
egg salad.
Oh well.
We are at the historic Fox Studios. Why don't you pan over to this building for just a split second? This is where Cary Grant used to come and eat food when he was making classic movies. So I want everyone to know the food was horrible. Cary Grant would have fired somebody.
Cary Grant is rolling over in his either grave or the cremation urn.
This is not befitting of the golden era movie stars. The cold cuts they served today to the media was
Mae
atrocious.
West.
So
Shaking your fist.
9 minutes later, we know Scott thought it was too small and the food was no good.
John definitely thought the food was no good, but that's...
At least we learned something.
I think that's going to put a wrap on it here from Pac-12 Media Day. We'll get one more shot of the empty tables. As always, we're closing it down here like we do at the LA Daily News. Jon Gold inside UCLA, Scott Wolf inside USC. I'm Sam Strong. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.